Fam, good morning. What's going on? It is Kyle Henderson of Bama Football on YouTube. Can I get a roll tide inside the comment box? Want to open up with our thoughts and prayers to anyone that might be impacted by Hurricane Milton. As you know, it looks like it's going right for Tampa, one of my favorite places in the world. I've gone to St. Pete's, Treasure Island. I stayed at the Don Cesar before. So thoughts and prayers to everybody that might be affected by that storm. I really, am worried about that area. And I know we have a lot of viewers in Florida all the way up to the southeast. So anybody that's been impacted by that first storm or by this one, thoughts and prayers to everybody out there. I appreciate you guys being here. Kyle Henderson, Bama Football on YouTube. Speaking of weather, it looks like it's going to be a fantastic day for football on Saturday when Alabama takes on South Carolina. It looks like that tailgate temperature, which will be, I guess you'd be tailgating as soon as you wake up. 66 degrees. This is courtesy of North Alabama Storm Chase. I guess the Bloody Marys will be rolling, right? Game time kick is 75, and for the fourth quarter, 81. I appreciate you being here on the show for the updated weather report right here on Bama Football on YouTube. Kyle Henderson, I appreciate you rocking. Look, I know another hoodie. All right, I had to. I saw this on Breaking Tea. This one is it. I had to get this one, and it's Trucker Hat Wednesday. Okay, so yeah, Marcus, man, be safe. Marcus is in St. Pete's. So if you want this, you can go to Breaking Tea. I will put the link inside the description box. I just reached out to Breaking Tea and Athletes Thread, so I think we're going to start working together a little bit. So, definitely support the players. And this hoodie is absolutely fire. Like, I'm not going to lie. So you'll probably be seeing me rocking it. And I look, today, as you know, I led the workout, and we talked about kind of the acceptance. That was one of my messages. And look, you accept that loss, and you don't dwell in it. So I'm ready to move forward from it. We talked about it on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Is gone. All right. So next game mentality from here on out. And I appreciate you guys being here. Good morning, Lisa, Max, Marcus, Chris from New Jersey, Rocketown, to everybody else inside the comment box. Good morning. I really appreciate you guys for being here right on the show on Bama Football on YouTube. We're going to talk about a bounce back, and here is how. This is what I would like to see Alabama do in this game against South Carolina, a team that can run the football up the middle. They have a really talented running back. We've talked about him before. Raheem Sanders, big, imposing running back. Not too worried about their passing game, but their running game, the way that Alabama has been able to there's been some long drives against Alabama, so I'd like to see them tighten up. We'll talk more about that. Justin in with the $4.99 Super Chat. I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much. Going to be my first Bama game this Saturday at Bryant-Denny Stadium. Hopefully bounce back. Oh, yeah, man, definitely. I think, kind of listening to some of the players yesterday in the interviews about the mindset and where they're going to go. Like, these are high-level athletes, and I guarantee you, all these athletes at some point in time have faced an L. And what do? You bounce back. You just can't continue to dwell on things that happened and in the past, because once it's in the past, it's in the past. That's it. All right. We're going to look at the SEC football standings. Remember, this year it's so interesting because the SEC is just 1 versus 2, and the team right now at the front of the bus, who would have thought, it's Texas A&M, right? So right now Texas A&M leading the pack with a 3-0 record. We're going to talk about this college football schedule, which is absolutely hot this weekend, okay? I know, and it kind of works out nicely that Alabama has kind of that morning game, because the games after it and the rest of the day are absolute fire. You could literally, this Saturday, you watch college. We watch college football all day, every day, but you be rolling with college football up until even there's a game, I think at 9:30 Central Time that kicks off between Colorado and Kansas State. So you might be able to sneak in a little nap, but all day college football. Jonesy, what's up? I appreciate you being here. Mark, what's going on, man? Thank you very much for joining us today. We're also going to talk about who can still redshirt. I started thinking about this, after the news of Jaheim Otis. So I went through, this took me a little bit of time, and I would like your help too, some feedback here. When I show this graphic later on in the show, players can redshirt if they haven't played 4 games. Now, we've only played 5 games at this point in time, but it'll give you a snapshot of where players are. I've done a lot of research on that, but I would love, some extra eyes looking at it because there's a lot of detail to go through. We're going to look at season stats overall, put together that as well. I know we usually go over that on Monday, but I wanted to swing that out to Wednesday and then kind of go over some additional topics that we have on board. So let's start right here. A bounce back for Alabama, and here's how. Look, I think that, anytime you face some adversity, you simply get back to the basics, right? And I would love to see Alabama control the tempo of this game. It was the first time that we've really seen a team control the tempo this season against Alabama. We've already talked about that, but I would like to see Alabama control the tempo. And when I talk about tempo, Alabama's offense is so dangerous. I don't know if you can continue to sustain drives, right? Like, Alabama isn't one of these old school style teams that's just going to 3, 4, 5 yards. Like, they're going to hit you with the 65-yard and put it in the end zone. But I would like to see Alabama control the tempo and kind of get back to what they were doing, I guess, against Georgia when they were absolutely running the table in that first half. But I do feel that this team can sustain drives, and I've talked about this several different times, and I know it's kind of the schematics of how the game is going, but I want to see these running backs get fed. When we look at Alabama's running back room, you'll see a limited amount of production so far from Justice and Jam. Now, these guys can certainly carry the load. I think the offensive line is playing much better since the beginning of the season. I mean, you've seen the pass blocking grades continue to improve, the run blocking grades as well. And I know everybody's going to be asking about this hoodie because this hoodie's fire. So I got this hoodie. I saw it on, I think this one is on Breaking Tea. So if you go to Breaking Tea and just search Ryan Williams, and again, like when you support Breaking Tea, it goes to Ryan Williams, right? Yeah, but this hoodie this is it. I have another one, and it says Ryan Williams, but the text, I don't know if you can see it that much. But this one's fire. And this, I like them a little bit more snug, so this is a medium, just to give you an idea. And I agree with Glenn. I think that Jam Miller is certainly one of the best running backs in college football. I love the way he's able to run downhill. He has a really good speed. He can catch the football well. You got to remember that he played running back, receiver, and even defensive back. Most of these guys do because they're elite athletes, but he's got some good hands for sure. Absolutely. He caught a touchdown pass against Georgia last year, catches a nice touchdown against Vanderbilt. So, continue to feed these running backs. I would love to see these running backs each have 100 all-purpose yards, which we haven't seen yet, and I get it. When you have Jalen Milroe, and when you have a guy like this, Hollywood, and what are you going to tell him? Limit your production. I mean, some guys are absolute ballers, and that's just it. But I would like to see that, and I think that helps control the tempo of the game. Good morning, Pastor Kevin. Thank you very much for being here. I would also like to see Jalen Milroe work the field. I showed you graphics this week about his intermediate passing game. If anybody criticizes that, just go look at the stats that I posted. He has been surgical across that intermediate, and he's been utilizing his tight ends. And we've seen him distribute the football more and more since that Georgia game. 11 wide receivers and tight ends against Georgia, 9 receivers and tight ends against Vanderbilt. Continue to capitalize on that. Really good quarterbacks are able to distribute the football. And, of course, you have, some absolutely talented wide receivers. In fact, I just saw it before I started my show. Ryan Hollywood Williams, has just been nominated for the Biletnikoff Award. Did you see this? The Biletnikoff Award goes to the best wide receiver in all of college football. All right? You're talking like the Desmond Howard. You know what? Can you guys do some quick research? Who's the last Alabama wide receiver to win the Biletnikoff Award? It just came up, so I didn't even have time to get organized with that. I wrote it down right here. I was a tiny whiteboard, and I'm going to do a video later on it, but I just didn't have enough time to write Biletnikoff. So if you could, who was the last Alabama football player to win the Biletnikoff Award? I'd appreciate that. And I said this, I think I said it after the Georgia game. I feel that he's the best wide receiver in college football. I mean, he clearly is. We'll talk about more of him later on. Talked about feeding the running backs. And this is like on the defense. I don't want to like overthink it. I know, there's a video that's going around of a guy, man, I forget his YouTube channel. He's doing such a great job breaking down the film and breaking down Alabama's schematics. There's some really good content creators doing things on YouTube. Honestly, like, it's amazing. Go out there and consume all of it. Just let these guys continue to be the players, but I do have concerns about the helmet communication and the plays getting in on time. It seems like this is a little bit, there's a little bit lagging in that window, which is concerning. Devontae Smith. Okay, thank you, Rocketown. Appreciate it. Yeah, Smitty. Good company to be on. Man, Smitty. This hat is from a gas station here in Tuscaloosa, but I think you can get this hat at the student store. The thing in Tuscaloosa, you can go to every single store and roll through with an Alabama hat. This is Trucker Hat Wednesday. That's what I'm calling this. I want to see some big booming hits. I think the biggest hit that we've had so far was by LT Overton on the quarterback. But, put your physical will into these guys. Like, stop trying to strip the football, right? Like, put them down in the turf. The team that we've seen do that so far has been Vanderbilt. Nobody hit like Vanderbilt so far. They absolutely brought it. Do that to South Carolina, all right? I want to continue to see turnovers and pressure. Got a little taste of that against Georgia, right? Not so much the pressure, but the turnovers, right? 3 interceptions. It doesn't seem like there's a lot of pressure on these quarterbacks. I would like to see it. Stop the run, and I hope that's not challenging. Like I said, Raheem Sanders, the running back for South Carolina, I'm telling you, he's very talented. I would imagine that Alabama has a much better performance on defense stopping the run. Got to get off the field clearly on third downs. I think that goes without saying. And look, you want to continue to see like a dominating performance through 4 quarters. I think that would do a lot for this team, right? I would imagine that kind of the morale right now is still real good. Still got to tighten up. But if you dominate in 4 quarters, then you get off to a really good start. You turn the page and you get a W and you move on, right? Winning solves all. Winning, high-level recruiting, and defense. That is the way to feed the fan base. We want to see the team recruit really well. We want to see really good defense. And we want to see the team win, right? Right now, you're really only doing 1 of 3 of the last week. You're always recruiting at a very high level. You didn't win and you didn't play good defense. That's why people pissed off. But we turn the page and we go on to Saturday, right? Tamarcus Smith is saying, I would love for Ryan Williams to win the award, but the Ohio State wide receiver will win it hands down. He's just a monster with the one-handed catches, the defense. Yeah, I did see the one-handed catch, and Ohio State certainly has. Out of all the teams, Ohio State has certainly had some really good wide receivers as well. Them in Alabama over the last 6-7 seasons, it's been remarkable the wide receivers that they've each sent to the NFL. My argument would be, for Ryan Williams in terms of look at what he's done in late game situations and big plays, like when the game's on the line and against the competition too, right? The catches and thank you. It's the film guy. Yes, thank you. What he's done against, like, those catches against Georgia, like, those are, like, etched in stone in, like, the College Football Hall of Fame. And, the catch against Vandy in a late-game situation, absolutely amazing. But Ohio State has some absolutely ballers. Yes, and the film guy, that's who's cutting up the film. I've seen him continue to grow. There's so many YouTube channels, like I said, that we've continued to see on the rise. So check it out. He does a really good job breaking down, like, film and stuff like that. We talked about the hurricane. If you're just checking in, thoughts and prayers to anybody that might be impacted by this storm or just the people in general. I love this area. I've said many times, if I didn't live in Tuscaloosa, I'd prefer to live maybe like in that area. I love Bradenton. I love Tampa. I love St. Pete's. That whole area. So thoughts and prayers for those that might be impacted by this incredible. They're saying that this storm is like mathematically like off the charts. When you start to like dive into the numbers, if you're an analytical type person, you start to see kind of just how severe that storm is. It's absolutely wild. Talked about the bounce back. So here are the SEC football standings. I didn't show this at the beginning of the week. Texas A&M right now is 3-0 in conference play, right? And like if we're to have the SEC championship today, you would have Texas A&M or either LSU or Texas, playing against each other. Right? There's a lot of football. The parity seems good in the SEC. This conference is crazy. I would imagine that Texas A&M suffers a L somewhere down the road. I would imagine that, hey, LSU, I know. I would imagine that they have an L somewhere down the road. They take on Ole Miss. We're going to talk about that in a minute. Texas taking on Oklahoma. Man, this conference is crazy. But with that said, that's why it's so important that losing another game, losing another game in the SEC, I'll tell you right now, I don't even know how far that puts you out. You might have to lose 3 games to really be out of SEC title contention. And we get it. The winning the championship, winning the championship probably just ensures a home field game and a bye. But if you don't play for the SEC title and you've ran through the SEC, I would imagine you still make a run for the college football championship. But yeah, I mean, Glenn, I agree with you. You can't lose another one specifically because you lost to Vandy. We all know that Vanderbilt is a good football team. They have a stigma overall that they're not a good football team. Plus, who you beat, who you lost to, it all comes into play. And if you really want to get twisted, go and check the SEC tie-breaking rules. It's there's a lot going on. But as Max points out, there's a 7-way tie for 6th. So college football is absolutely wild. And the SEC is hitting hard. Think about it. I mean, the only team that hasn't won a game in the SEC is Auburn. God bless. Mississippi State down there too, and then South Carolina 1-2. But they're 3-2 overall, and they beat Kentucky. And South Carolina should have beat who is it? LSU. All right. So this week in college football, there's we went over this. This is crazy. Texas 14.5 against Oklahoma. While I imagine Texas wins this game, it's a rivalry game. I know. Rivalry. This game last year was crazy. There was a lot of different elements in these rivalry games. We all know Auburn might not win a game the rest of the way. What we've learned and what I've learned from living here for 8 years, that game is just crazy. It's crazier down at the barn than it is here in Tuscaloosa still. I haven't really heard an update on Kendrick Law, Chris. So keep you posted when we do. Penn State at USC, I don't know. I don't really buy the Penn State stuff. USC at home. I was drinking the Kool-Aid on USC early on. They haven't done what I expected them to do. I wouldn't be surprised if USC wins that game, though. Oregon and Ohio State, we talked about that yesterday. I would imagine that Ohio State wins this game. It might be a little bit closer because the game's in Eugene. And then Ole Miss, LSU, I don't know. I have no idea. I think Ole Miss, that might be coin flip for me. And then, like I said, there's going to be college football all day long because you have Kansas State taking on Colorado. Colorado, they've lost 1 game this year? They're 4-1. They're not ranked. That would probably definitely push them back into the top 25. And here's kind of an overview looking at the college football schedule. We start with the ACC. You got Clemson taking on Wake Forest, where they are a 20-point favorite. Georgia Tech taking on North Carolina. Stanford taking on Notre Dame. That is a rivalry game, but Notre Dame favored by 23.5. Cal, who lost to Miami by 1 point, takes on Pittsburgh. Man, that is crazy. So now Cal has to go all the way. Cal has been racking up the frequent flyer miles. They went to Auburn. They went to Florida State, and now they're going to Pittsburgh to take on former, who's Eli Holstings, the quarterback at Pitt, who's number 22 this year. And you have Louisville, who is ranked. Now, they're not ranked, taking on Virginia, and Syracuse. I like Syracuse. They're not a bad team, taking on NC State. Here's a look at, what is this? We have the Big 12. Utah taking on Arizona on Friday Night Football. Cincinnati and Central Florida. That's going to be an interesting game. Saturday. I haven't seen, Orlando. I'm curious about that one. Arizona at BYU. Iowa State taking on West Virginia. Iowa State's 5. They're number 11. They're 5-0 on the season. And Kansas State, as I mentioned, taking on Colorado. This is the Big 10. Northwestern and Maryland Friday Night Football. And then on Saturday, Washington, coming off a W over Michigan, is taking on Iowa. Wisconsin taking on Rutgers. Penn State taking on USC. Purdue taking on Illinois. Ohio State at Oregon, and I guess the college football game of the week. And then Minnesota taking on UCLA. When we look at the SEC, as we know, South Carolina taking on Alabama at 11 a.m. Missouri is taking on UMass, trying for a bounce-back game after their big loss to Texas A&M. Texas taking on Oklahoma in the college football game of the week. Mississippi State taking on Georgia, Florida, and Tennessee will tangle in Knoxville. And then Ole Miss and LSU and Vandy. Vandy in Kentucky? All right, let me ask you before we move on to the next graphic. What is that? Kentucky's favored by 14 against Vanderbilt. Okay. Who wins, Vanderbilt or Kentucky? Type V for Vanderbilt and type K. I was busting out the sign language. K for Kentucky. V for Vanderbilt, K for Kentucky. And Kentucky's a 12-point favorite? They not watch the game? Kentucky, Hattie Mae has Kentucky. I wouldn't be surprised if this game goes into, Vanderbilt's been in 2 overtime games. They beat Alabama. A lot of K so far. Kentucky by 20? Vanderbilt, hopefully, Bama still says. Vandy is about to, Mitchell is saying Vandy is bound to let down. Sarah Crane is saying Kentucky. Jarvis is saying just roll Tide. I don't know. I'm curious. What time is that game at? This screen is so small. 6:45. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to have that game on one of my boxes. All right. Vanderbilt, hopefully, Beth James saying. I want like the most dramatic thing to happen, so I would imagine that game is super close. Okay, here there's a lot of detail on this next graphic, and I would screenshot it, do whatever you can. We'll look at it for a second. So how to find this? This is called the participation chart from the University of Alabama. So if you tab over to the official website and you go to their stats, scroll all the way down, and it shows you the amount of games that players have played in. They list how they started. They list in the games that they've come in. This morning I started thinking about this when Jaheim Otis left. So I know there's a lot of details. So let's point out a couple different things, and then we'll go, we'll talk about some players that jump off to me. So the F stands for a true freshman. The star indicates if the player has redshirted already. Okay. And again, if you guys, want to, see, I already see an error real quick. I know I'll get eaten up on that. So when I go back to that graphic, I would appreciate if you guys help me out on that. And the reason I wanted to do this is because of the fact that when I started thinking about Jaheim Otis leaving, I was like, well, who else hasn't played 4 games? So if you've played 4 games, then you can no longer redshirt. But if you haven't, then you can. So let's kind of go through it. So an interesting one that stands out right off the jump is up at the top right, and that's Kendrick Law. Now, he's played in 3 games, and he didn't play against Vanderbilt. So, and he hasn't redshirted. He's a junior. I think we're all kind of watching that one, kind of because let's face it, maybe from, an outside Alabama fan's perspective, he's only caught 2 passes. He's played in 3 games. So, some sort of an injury, like could there be something going on there? Now, if he's healthy this game and then he plays, obviously he's going to still continue to be here. Or he could redshirt. I don't know. We still don't even know how serious his injury is. The updated injury report will come out tonight from the SEC. And Kalen DeBoer has a SEC teleconference this morning. So moving back to the top left, you got Bubba Hampton. He's played in 2 games. He didn't play the last 2. Daniel Hill, he's played in 3 games. Didn't play last week. Dylan Lonergan, we've seen a little bit of him. Didn't play in the last 3. Edric Hill, Hunter Osborne, Isaiah Fega. This was an interesting one on the bottom left. Cam Howard and Keon Keeley. So Cam Howard transferred here, right, from Charlotte. He's played in 3 games, but he hasn't played the last 2. And then Keon Keeley, everybody's talking about him, right? Like, why hasn't he played? Are we going to see him? I mean, he's only played 1 game now. He has redshirted, right? So just something to keep tabs on. Kevin Riley's played in 1 game. Nyquil Bentrade has played in 1 game. He's already redshirted at Texas A&M. Noah Carter, he's played in 1 game. He hasn't played in the last 4. Another interesting one is Richard Young. He's played 2 games but hasn't played the last 2. Now, I know they played 5 games, but he could have, I think he played the first game and the 3rd game, for example. Rico Scott, same thing. Sterling Dixon. And again, there was a lot of detail in this, so there might be a couple errors or something I have to fix. So maybe screenshot it, look it over if you're into these sort of analytics, and let me know on the next show. Casey, I agree, man. Completely prayers out to the people in the state of Florida. And then Ty Simpson, he's already redshirted. He's played in 2 games, has not played in the last 2. But we did see him in the first game, and we did see him in the 3rd game. Here's a look at Alabama's defensive line, right, now that Jaheim Otis is transferring. This will be something that we continue to keep track of in terms of, like, the graphics. Here's how to look. I wanted to go over the season stats. This is something that we haven't updated yet. I updated it today. So when you look to Alabama's season stats, and I'll go full screen on this, and I'm going to update the snap counts and the grades for next week. Javion, what's up, man? I appreciate you being here. Thank you so much. So you start on the left with Jalen Milroe. He has 1,274 yards, 11 touchdowns, 283 rushing yards. He had 10 last week against Vanderbilt, and he has 9 rushing TDs. Like, it's absolutely crazy, right? Haven't seen Austin Mack this year, and then, we've looked at the small detail of Ty Simpson, who has 96 passing yards, seen him play against Western Kentucky and against Wisconsin. Milroe's numbers are bananas. Like, these are Heisman-esque type numbers, right? And you see in the last 2 games, actually, this isn't the graphic that's even updated. But you see in the last 2 games what he was able to do against Vanderbilt and against Georgia, right? I mean, and you continue to see, like I said at the beginning of the show, he distributed the football to 11 guys against Georgia and 9 against Vandy. And if you're joining late on the show, the hoodie is from Breaking Tea. They sent me an affiliate code. I think you get like 10% off or something like that if you sign up through the link. So this is my favorite hoodie. Here's the Alabama running back room through 5 games of play. Starting on the left with Jam Miller. 39 attempts, 318 yards, 5 touchdowns. He had 2, right, last week. 1 through the air. 63.6 yards. The only thing that I guess, like, there's not a lot going wrong with Alabama's offense that I can, like, nitpick at. I think if I was to, like, really nitpick at Alabama's offense, I would say issue at right tackle, and we don't see a lot of a sustained running game, right? And the running backs don't get the football enough. But, I mean, you can really score at will The offensive line, like if you really dive into the pass blocking grades, they're really good. If you dive into Jalen Milroe's passing chart, it's great. If you look to their playmaking wide receivers, I mean, the guy's up for the Bolitnikoff Award, so kind of just nitpicking. I mean, do we want to see Alabama kind of slow it down and stop scoring 40 points a game? I think it might be, and I didn't come up with this. What was it, Joel Klatt, who said Alabama's like similar to what year of Oklahoma? And if you think about it, it's like, is it really now in college football, is it first team to 40 wins? So I think that these running backs are just so talented that they're more talented than any other running backs in the country outside of the guys from Ohio State. See, and Alex, I know that's kind of what I'm saying, commit to the run, but I don't think you can because Alabama's big playability. What are what are we going to do? Tell these guys to stop? Are you going to tell Ryan Williams to run out of bounds on an 82-yard touchdown? Like, the guy's going to just, he's going to score another touchdown this game. I mean, look at the big runs, too. 85, 56, 39. Jam Miller's really impressed me with his top-end speed. I knew he was powerful, but in terms of, like, his overall speed, too, man, he's got another gear. He looks like an NFL back to me. Here's a look at the Alabama tight end room. C.J. Dupree has 8 receptions for 124. Robbie Oots with the mustache, 10 receptions with 10 yards. Josh Cuevas, 7 for 91. He's turned into a nice little tight end. I like that addition. Now, I will say this. He got absolutely cleaned up by Vanderbilt. Man, and I'm glad he, popped back up. But I would imagine he got his wind knocked out. Thank you, Jarvis. Joel Klatt said Alabama resembles a team led by Lincoln Riley that led Oklahoma in the Big 12. That's who said. That's what he was comparing it to. Like big offense and just like, weak defense. I guess we'll have to see. I mean, kind of hard to agree with right now. But I know a lot of people don't like his takes. I don't know. He's got a huge platform. He's been around for a while, played the game. People, there's certain villains of Alabama football, and I think people view him as one of them. But I watched one of his videos when he was breaking down Alabama football before they lost, and I don't know, he hit on some really good points about Alabama. So here's a receiving room. A lot of detail here. I had to add Cole Adams over Bubba Hampton. I could only add so many wide receivers to this board before I start like shrinking down everything. Now, Bubba Hampton has played, but he hasn't caught a reception yet. That's why I took him off and added Cole Adams on the far right. Starting on the far left, you have Jeremy Bernard, who has 16 receptions for 220 yards and a touchdown, averaging 44 yards per game. Ryan Williams, 19 receptions, 544 yards, 6 touchdowns, 108 per game, and just nominated for the Bolitnikoff Award, along with a lot of, very talented wide receivers. In fact, it's thanks to you guys in the Undefeated, the last Bolitnikoff Award winner is from Alabama was 2020. That's Smitty. By the way, my favorite player here at Bama. But I have the most gear of Ryan Williams. Kobe Prentice has 8 for 107. We never got an update on, some of these guys that might have been injured or whatever. I would imagine that Kobe Prentice going through concussion protocols following that, really, booming hit. He got sandwiched in between two guys. I don't know if that was targeting or not. The one on Jalen Milroe could have been targeting. Kendrick Law, only 2 receptions for 41 yards. That's kind of, something we've been tracking. It's good. It's been really good to see Emmanuel Henderson back on the field. By the way, Emmanuel Henderson, he was returning kicks against Vanderbilt, had a kick that I thought he was going to I thought it was Ryan Williams returning. I couldn't really see the number. He was flying. Oh. And I think it was turned out to be 52-yard return against Vanderbilt, returning the football. Caleb Odom, we've seen him as a wide receiver get opportunities. He has 5 receptions for 45 yards. I think the most receptions he had was against Wisconsin from Ty Simpson. Rico Scott, we've seen a little bit of him, and then Cole Adams. The only wide receiver that hasn't gotten to the field this year, when you look to all the snap counts and whatnot, is Amari Jefferson. I mean, this is crazy. Ryan Williams this year. I mean, the 6 for 177 is going to always, that was I thought he was slow. I honestly thought he was slow down against Wisconsin, and he didn't. Oh, so yeah, he's absolutely just doing his thing. Scored a touchdown in every game this year. You know what's a scary thought is to subtract him. Like, what if he didn't reclassify? Is there a wide receiver from this group that you think would have stepped up and put up that similar type of production or playmaking ability? I mean, there's a lot of guys in here, but it is kind of scary to think, you subtract Ryan Williams from this offense. I don't know, because he's absolutely different. Hey, Alex, that's crazy that you put Odom at tight end. So did I. Like on year 2 or whatever, I moved Odom to tight end, and I fed him. All right, here's a look at Alabama's offense. I have to update the snaps and the grades, so subtract those out of your mind. But here's just a look at Alabama's offensive line and how it's looked so far. You have Caden Proctor, Tyler Booker, Parker Brailsford, Jaden Roberts, and Elijah Pritchett. Those are your starters. But I do want to add this, and what I'm going to do, instead of the overall grades at the bottom, I'm going to list their pass blocking grades, because I really want you to understand just how good these guys have done in pass blocking in the last few games. The only one that's been struggling still in terms of pass blocking has been Elijah Pritchett, which, that's why I asked, do you feel that there's, an issue at the right tackle position? Let me ask you this before we move to the next slide. Yes or no, do you think there is an issue, or how about this? Are you concerned with the right tackle position? Yes or no? And Max, like I said, I have to update the grades and the snap counts. And it was also interesting about the offensive line last week. I don't know. I'm sure some of you probably saw this, but Jaden Roberts and Geno Vandermark, they had the similar number of snaps. They each had, I think it was 23 snaps, which I thought was interesting. So, yeah, I'm concerned. Jarvis is concerned. Max, everybody's concerned about the right tackle, right? I mean, Jalen Milroe doesn't fumble the ball. Alabama puts it in the end zone 1,000,000%. Myron is saying he's going back to the wide receivers. He's like, to be honest, Ryan is saving this offense. So I don't know why Geno Vandermark's playing more. Maybe they're just, continuing to get these guys in the mix, which I would imagine. Mike G's not concerned. Neither is Myron. Appreciate the feedback. Here's a look at the Alabama defensive line. I got to put that transfer stamp on Jaheim Otis. And I was thinking about Jaheim Otis, because I've been watching him since he got here, and I was excited for his transformation in terms of his body type and how he got on the field his first year here, and kind of the story around it. But I also think he's, and I don't, like, anytime that a player leaves, I don't want to be like, oh, go somewhere else. Like, because I really felt that he would have an opportunity to compete for playing time. But I do feel that some of these other guys are just performing and playing better than him. For example, like, we all have talked about Tim Keenan. Tim Smith's playing a lot better this year. But one of the players, for example, is like James Smith. I think James Smith is literally, he was out playing Otis, and it's the coach's responsibility to put the best player on the field. And then it comes down to Jaheim Otis to work with the coaches to, get onto the field again when his name is called. But you have to play the best players. Like, what are you going to do? Not play James Smith? The guy's playing great. Empowerment Hour is saying, Kyle, I got word that star players say that Kane Womack is the problem. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are pointing to that. I'm wondering about, one of the things that I can't get out of my mind yesterday from the interviews is listening to Malachi Moore was saying that the plays are coming in late, right? Imagine how stressful that is for the players, right? If the plays are calling in late, man, that must be really challenging to deal with from the player's perspective. Tony is saying that Trent Richardson said Jaheim Otis has other things going on not related to Bama. Huh. Yeah, that's interesting. I wonder what that means. You know, I would just, for any of these guys that are thinking about going into the transfer portal, like during the season, I would make that assessment at the end, right? Like maybe somehow you talk to coach and be like, you know what, coach, like I understand there's players that are ahead of me right now. And, you know, I need to think about things, but I want to continue to see how the season goes, but I'm going to continue the grind, continue to show up every single day. But just, you know, I need to figure this out where I'm going to be on this team, but I want to continue to do everything you ask from me. And then make your decision at the end of the season rather than like in the beginning of the season. And I think what's happening right now in NIL and transfer portal is a lot of these players, and I'm not saying this is happening to Jaheim Otis. I have no idea. I haven't talked to him, haven't talked to anybody in his room. But I think there's handlers and people outside that are talking to these players and are being like, you're not playing, hit the transfer portal. Let's go make some money and get the hell out of here. Rather than, you know, the player talking with the coaches about playing time and about where he could be and where they kind of see him and what he's not doing to get onto the field. But I think these people on the outside are getting into the ear and be like, transfer, you got a big name, you came to Bama. And think about it, anybody that goes to Alabama is always going to up their personal brand. As soon as you commit and come over here to Alabama, just like coaches, right? As soon as you come to Alabama, you're going to up your brand and up your worth, right? So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different ways to look at it. I just, I really don't like these transfers at the beginning of the season. What, 5 games? Alabama, if they put a run together, they play 16 games. Byron is saying, don't worry about stats and grades, break down film like the film guy. Brooks Austin. Yeah. You know what? I can't show any type of footage on the channel. I was contacted by ESPN, and they said that any type of footage that I show, my video will be my YouTube channel will be shut down, saying like, you know, everyone has different points, and in order to use that type of information, you have to pay an incredible amount. So I would imagine that, you know, someone as talented as Austin Brooks is making millions, you know, doing this and has, you know, sponsors and absolutely crushing it. The guy's great. But in terms of me, I'm just like a one-man operation. So I have to continue just to work with what I have. But I can't show. They literally contacted me. Right? And in terms of like having guests and people on the show, like, it's just me. But I appreciate it, Brian. You have some good ideas, man. Here's the bandit position for Alabama. You had Jamarian Lathan with 11 tackles. You have LT Overton, who leads that bandit position with 13 tackles and 1 sack this season. You know, I'd like to see these guys take down like guys to the actual like field rather than like punching the ball out. Do you see that LT Overton absolutely striking? I think Clark Lee was thinking that he was punching some dude's helmet, but he was looking at it from like a reverse angle. The TV broadcast had LT Overton punching the football out. Kind of reminded me of that Tennessee game. But Tennessee was literally punching. Who were they punching? Remember last year? Oh. Here's the wolf position. Q-Rob, there's so much depth here. It's crazy. It's good. I'm so happy that Quay Russo's healthy. Kind of, you know, have my eye on Keanu Coat, you know. It's hard to get on the field, though, when you got Q-Rob and Quay balling out. Even Yanzi Pierre, we've seen him come on. Beth James asking about Justice Terry. Yeah, I think there's still plenty of opportunities to get some of these bigger guys out there. You know, I think it also has to look good. You have to look at it from like a bidding standpoint. The Nebraska football coach just came out and was talking about NIL, and I mean, it's changed everything in college football. I mean, we continue to see that. These are no longer the same rosters every single year, and I think with a high-level prospect like that, like how much money – think about this. Derek, what's up, man? I appreciate you being here. Alabama, at the end of the year, they're going to have to re-recruit all their players. and player values are going to go up. How much money is there to give to a guy like Justice Terry, a guy like Ryan Williams, right? A guy like Justice Haynes. Man, I mean, millions and millions, and guys are only increasing their stock. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to continue to watch how all this unfolds in the college football world. I just saw, before I came on here, when I was putting these graphics together, I just saw that there's no more signing day. I didn't even get to read into it, like what it meant. They were just like, the NCAA is taking away sign. Did you see this? They just said that they're taking away signing day. It seems like the NCAA makes things way more complicated. And Angel, I saw that. Even after the loss, Cunningham said he's still committed. Why would he not be? I thought it was funny that people would even ask him. Like, is he, you know? The Alabama inside linebackers still playing at a really good level despite Jahad Campbell's, performance against Vanderbilt, where he only had a grade of 38, which is crazy. Deontay Lawson and Jahad Campbell lead this team in tackles, a combined 85 tackles on the year. I still believe in these guys. I just kind of curious about, schematics, just like everybody else on the defensive side of the ball. One thing that I did with the corners, when you look to the corner information right here, instead of like tackles and whatever, I put together how many times they've been targeted and how many receptions they've allowed. I think that gives you a really good understanding of, what these guys are doing during game situations from like a corner. And I did the same thing with the safeties. So for example, Damani Jackson, he's been targeted 17 times. He's allowed 6 receptions. Xavier Brown, 18 for 7. It could be more if quarterbacks could throw accurately, because Xavier, the receivers have definitely got behind, our young freshman, who, by the way, is doing a good job. But, I mean, let's call it what it is. He certainly has been beat several times. Jalen Mbakwe, in the times he's been in, he's targeted 8 times, allowed 5, and then Deshaun Jones 6 for 3. This is interesting. There's a lot of targets here and a lot of receptions on Keon Sabb. Now, this is from Pro Football Focus. So he's been targeted 17 times and allowed 13 receptions. And Malachi Moore, 15 for 6. So there's a look at your Alabama safeties. And then the Husky position, Devontae Smith and Red Morgan, they swap out there. Devontae Smith, 19 targets, 11 receptions, then Red Morgan, 13 for 7. One last look at the special teams. Then I want to ask you something about Coach Kalen DeBoer towards the end of the show. Graham Nicholson, 1 of 2 on field goals. The longest at 28. I'm surprised we haven't seen, Alabama's been putting, touchdowns on the board. But he's just 1 of 2. I would imagine, what? This guy's going to have to be, we're going to have to see a big, we're not even at the halfway point of the season, but in these SEC games, the Graham Nicholson, I want to see what he can bring to the table. James Burnham's an absolute weapon. This guy has 20 punts inside the 20. Neelan Hibbett's been solid as a long snapper. Want to be stressed out? Have a bad snapper, right? We went through that last year with the center. But most, on special teams, it's so critical. It's such an underlooked position. Kendrick Law still leads the team in kick return yardage with 2 returns for 77 yards. Behind him is Emmanuel Henderson and then Cole Adams. Looks like he almost has like a robotic arm. Did you guys see this? Looks like a RoboCop arm. He has 7 punts for 42 yards. All right. I was thinking about this yesterday. When, not this that you're looking at on the screen, but I was thinking about this yesterday when I heard the Tim Smith interview. Okay. You see this Tim Smith interview talking about Coach Kalen DeBoer now being buckled in, or buckled down. I kind of was thinking too, Tim Smith's been playing great. I just found it interesting the way that these guys are referring to like coach. Like he was like, you know that dude, he's a good dude. And I was thinking, like, I wonder how Coach Kalen, I know he's liked by the guys and I know he's a good guy. I just wonder how I have no idea about this. I just wonder how the players are viewing Coach Kalen DeBoer. I've always lived life by like a kind of like by a hierarchy, and that still very well could exist. I wonder what the hierarchy is. Right? I love that interview by Tim Smith. I thought it was great. But he's saying kind of that he's buckled down and kind of the hierarchy of it. Because to me, it should go like this. It should go Kalen DeBoer, the OC and DC, then the assistant coaches, then the team captains, then some veteran players, and then, freshmen that have just kind of come in. I don't know. I don't know if that's what the hierarchy is there. Because I can guarantee you, we all know what the hierarchy was when Coach Saban was here. It was like Coach Saban was like, that was it. I really feel that Alabama's going to turn it around, though. And I don't think this is any time to panic. Not yet. I believe in the players. I really do. You look at the amount of talent that Alabama has. I mean, Coach Kalen DeBoer took over the most loaded college football team that any coach has ever taken on. I mean, bringing on, coming to a team with Jalen Milroe, Ryan Williams, Justice Haynes, Caden Proctor, Deontay Lawson, Jahad Campbell, Damani Jackson, Malachi Moore. Like, no coach has ever stepped into a better situation. Now, I think it's a definite wake-up call for Coach Kalen DeBoer just to see how talented the SEC is. Because I get it. While you play in a big game, Washington and Oregon, the next game you're playing, I don't know, Arizona State, or you're playing Arizona. Like in the SEC, I mean, every single game is just as hard as the last, right? So it's going to be a grind, but I do feel that he will be able to get this team back on track. I do. And I know it's been a bumpy road these last couple of days because everybody has been nitpicking everything from the schematics on defense, which have a right to be looked at and criticized because that was not it. And what they've done in the last 6 games is not it. I think people have been, they've been curious about, does this guy get mad? Does he have the real fire in his belly? Can he take control of this team? And we've seen some of it. But people here in Alabama, like, they don't play. Like, they want to see defense. And they are never going to I don't think people in Alabama and Alabama football fans will ever accept like a Big 12 type team. Big offense and, weak defense or average defense. They won't. They want high recruiting, they want good defense, and they want really good offense. Those are the standards that we're accustomed to. And those standards should never change. Why should they? With the talent that Alabama has, no standards should ever change. While college football is going to grasp basketball, we still don't want that. So, and Lance is right. The honeymoon is over. I mean, people have even been critical of the clothes he wears, like the T-shirt. To me, to each man his own. But we're used to some, these are the things when you're taking over for Coach Saban. So, Nicole is asking anything on Kobe. Not yet. The SEC availability comes out tonight. I would imagine that he's going through concussion protocols after that hit. Haven't heard anything on Kendrick Law. And I don't think there was anyone else banged up against Vanderbilt that I can remember. I think Josh Cuevas, if anything, it was like the wind knocked out or whatever. So I'll take you guys' calls tomorrow. And we'll continue to move past this last week. This is an opportunity. I love where Byron's saying Walmart T-shirts. I still fully believe in this team, and I felt that they were going to win that game up until the last drive. There's too much talent. I mean, it would be catastrophic to me if they lost another one. Like I don't even see that as a possibility against South Carolina. I really don't. I think the players are they're too good. So I appreciate you guys being here. Again, if you want to support the players, you can go to Athletes Thread or Breaking T, and you can search for your favorite Alabama football player. There's a lot of cool gear out there. I also want to say, definitely check out all the other great YouTube channels. There's some really great content creators out there. And whether they have a small channel, a big channel, whether they used to work here or they're working somewhere else, like it's absolutely, cool to see all these content creators continue to like showcase their craft because they're really good. All your recruiting sites, those guys are so dialed in, and all the people that cover college football in general, definitely check them out. My last comment is on the Hurricane Milton. If you were impacted by that last storm, thoughts and prayers, let us know how we can help you. In this upcoming storm, I mean, my goodness, it's heartbreaking, to think about, people that are about to be impacted by this storm. I love that area. Like, I would love to live in Bradenton, Tampa. In my next far out chapter in life, I'd like to be up in that area. So I've been there several different times, and my heart just breaks for the people that are about to go through that. So let us know how we can continue to help you, whatever we need to do, and we'll be here for you on Bama Football on YouTube. I hope you guys have enjoyed the program today. I really appreciate every single opportunity that I get to talk Alabama football. Kyle Henderson at Bama Football on YouTube. Have a blessed rest of your Wednesday. As news happens, I got you covered right here on Bama Football on YouTube. We also have a really active Facebook page, Alabama Crimson Tide on YouTube. And, of course, you can re-listen to this on Apple or Spotify. But thank you so much for giving me your attention today for this last hour during my Wednesday segment. One more time, from beautiful Tuscaloosa, Alabama, Kyle Henderson of Bama Football on YouTube. See you guys.